Okay, we're going to start today. Hope to finish the first parak. But would like to touch one more nekuda before we go weiter. The Meforshim, right at the beginning of Sefer Yehoshua, focusing on the minui of Yehoshua, the minui of Yehoshua. Is it clear? Is it? Okay. Focusing on the minui of Yehoshua as taking over from Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Goyen says, Mishoras Moshe Lemor Kol Lemor Shebemikre U'Ascholas HaMaimer Pirush Ad Lemor Loidia Kosev Shediber Hashem Em Yehoshua Mimilas Lemor Aschalas Maimer She'achrov. That's the Lashon of the Goyen. So I'd like to go back to the Chumash and focus on the minui of Yehoshua. But before the minui of Yehoshua, I want to go back to a story that happens in Sefer Bamidbar. Listen to a fascinating story. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, "Esfol yishivim zkenim miziknei Yisrael," and share responsibility. Not you yourself, but all the shivim zkenim will share the responsibility together with you. Moshe Rabbeinu has a problem, because if he takes from all 12 shvatim, he's going to take 5 zkenim, so he's going to have only 60. He's going to take 6, he's going to have 72. So what does Moshe do? As I state in Sifri, Rashi brings it down. He takes 70, it says, zokein, and on 2 ptokim, was a pesek, he wrote lovon. Shaila, if he wrote lovon, he didn't write anything. And those who were chosen not to be nivchar were left out. There are 2 people there in the back of the machne, Eldad and Meidad, who are 2, I'm not speaking about Eldad and Meidad today, they're 2 brothers, half-brothers of Moshe and Aaron, Oidem min Ahav, Oidem min Ahem, that's not the topic today. Misnabim b'machane. Okay. Steht da sei, vayetze Moshe vaydaber elom es divrei Hashem vayosef shivim zkenim mizikneom vayamed doisem sviv Soil vayered Hashem be'onam vayetzal min haruach asher olov vayiten al shivim azkenim vayikenoyach aleim haruach vayisnabu velo yosofu vayishoaru shnei anoshim b'machane shemo echod eldod u'shem hasheni meidod vatonoch aleim haruach vehemo b'ksuvim velo yotzu o'ohelo vayisnabu b'machane. They don't come to the gathering. Rashi says, they were chosen. They were from the 70 that were chosen. But they stayed backwards, and Vayisnabu b'machan. Vayoretz Hanar Vayaged leMoshe Eldad u'Meidad Misnabi b'machan. You know, there are 2 people, Eldad u'Meidad, who are Misnabi b'machan. Vayan Yehoshua binun Meshores Moshe mibechuro Vayomer Adoni Moshe kloim. Yomer lo Moshe mekane atoli miiten kol am Hashem nevim ki yiten Hashem esrucho yaleim. So they are saying in the nevuah, they're not gathering together with the oil, they're saying their own nevuah, and they are, Moshe Rabbeinu, Yeshua comes over and says, you know what? They're becoming Egen and Rebbe's, they're making their own nevios, kloim. Gemara says, atel alem tzochetzivu ve'kolim eleim. Whatever the word kloya means, Moshe answers, "Miyitein kol am Hashem nevim halavai gans kol Yisrael should be nevim." You were complaining about those people who are not nevim. Halavai gans kol Yisrael should be nevim. What nevuah did Eldad u'Meidad say? Welche nevuah? What was the nevuah of Eldad u'Meidad? In the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Yud Zayin, there are 3 shittas. What is the nevuah of Eldad u'Meidad? One man the Omer says, "Ma nevuah nisnabu Eldad u'Meidad Omru Moshe meis." Moshe is dying. Yeshua machnis es eretz es Yisrael la'oretz. The nevuah was, Moshe is going to die. He's getting shivim skenim as a support against the complaint of Klal Yisrael, and Elder Dumei that misnabim b'machane, they're coming to say, Moshe is dying, Yeshua is taking over. Rab Nachman Omar al iske goygu mogoig. They said a nevuah about goygu mogoig. I don't want to get involved right now in goygu mogoig. Rab Lezer Omar al iske slav hoyu misnabim. Ali slav, Ali slav. So let's put away those two other mando omrim, but let's focus on the nevuah Moshe Meis, Yeshua machnisom la'oretz. Zog the Gemara, bishlamo the other two mando omrim, ainu d'ksiv ki yitein. If you say Ali slav, they said the nevuah about the slav, nevuah about goy gumagog. I understand why Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't care. He says, let it be, everybody else should be neviim. Aber, according to the mando of Moshe Meis, could you imagine? Moshe Rabbeinu is getting a nevuah. It's a nevuah. They're not saying shtusim v'avolim, they're saying a nevuah. Could you imagine that Moshe Rabbeinu gets a nevuah, he's going to die, and Yeshua sitting in front of him, he's machnis la'oretz. Mai miyitein kolam Hashem neviim? For the Gemara Akasha, what is yitein kolam Hashem neviim? The guy is listening to a nevuah, somebody's telling Kadosh Baruch Hu, he's saying to them a nevuah, it's a nevuah. That he's going to die and Yeshua is going to take over. And for the Gemara, loy siyemua kamei. What does that mean, loy siyemua kamei? So all the Meforshim, inclusive but not limited to Marsha, learn loy siyemua kamei. They say they were menaber, but when they came to say what was the nevuah, they never said what was the nevuah. Loy siyemua kamei. In other words, Moshe didn't hear that part that Yeshua is taking over. But what's loy siyemua? What's the lashon loy siyemua kamei? You should say, Lo amruah kamei. Lashon siyemua is a bit ambiguous. And I would like to offer the following understanding in this fascinating Gemara. You know, in the Torah, it says 172 times, Vayadaber Hashem el Moshe le'omer. Either Vayadaber or Vayomer. 172 times it says Vayadaber or Vayomer Hashem el Moshe le'omer. One time it says the other way around. Vayadaber Moshe el Hashem le'omer. Doesn't say Vayadaber Hashem el Moshe. Moshe is speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vayadaber Moshe el Hashem le'omer. Yifkoid Hashem elokei aruchas lechol basar isha le'edo asher yetz lifnem asher yovel lifnem asher yotzim asher yiviem v'lo yitiyeh adas Hashem katzoyin asher en lo emroi. Moshe is looking for Yerush. Moshe smells his gzeira of not going to Eretz Yisrael, and he's asking, please appoint someone to be my Yerush. Zocht Rashi le'emor. What does it mean le'emor? Omali ashiveni Atomemane parnas im lav. Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to with some kind of a trunya klape male. Sounds like a chutzpah. Zog, are you giving over? Are you going to be memane parnas or you're not going to do it? Zog the sifse chachomim. What does it mean? Bederech klal kshakodesh baruch hu medaber al Moshe lemor hainu sheyoyma libnei Yisrael. What does it mean vayidaber Hashem al Moshe lemor? HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke to Moshe, le'emor, you should say it weiter. What's the part le'emor? You say, I'm giving over to you for you to say. But vayidaber Moshe Hashem, fine, Moshe can talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what does it say, vayidaber Moshe Hashem le'emor? He's telling Hashem should say. To who? Who is Hashem saying to? He's speaking to Hashem, he's having a private conversation. Hayichidis, midei b'shte. So what's le'emor? So Rashi, therefore Rashi was forced into a corner to say le'emor, Hashiveni dover. Lemor is, answer me back. I'm demanding an answer. Hameman atamemane parnas aleim im lav. What kind of words is that? Moshe is coming to ask for Yerush, and he tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lemor, please answer me ASAP. Im lav. He doesn't say atamemane parnas aleim. Atamemane parnas aleim im lav. Yes or no? Tell me. What's happening over here? I'd like to suggest as follows. Prior to this parasha, the very, very approximate parsha prior to this parsha from Yafked Hashem Isha La'eda. It says, Vayomer, 2 psukim before. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe alei al ar avorim hazeh re'eh so'oretz asher nosati libnei Yisrael. Zokt Rashi, what's alei al ar avorim? Loma nismecho lekan, ki v'shomer HaKadosh Baruch Hu nosein titen lohem, omar oisi tziva amokim lahanchil, shemahut ro'ak zeira ve'kones lo'oretz. Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu gzeirosi b'mekoi mo'imetz. Moshe had a punishment. Because of Chet HaMeri, because Chet Meriva, he's not going in, Im and Aaron HaKohen are not going into Eretz Yisrael. But on the other hand, Bnei Slavchad are coming with a shtickle Torah. Whoever learned the Sugis HaGemorin, they came, Lamdonius, Chachmanius, they came. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them, Nosoi Titein, you shall give. Kiven Sheshoma Moshe Zokt Rashi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Nosoi Titein, Omar Shema Hutro Agzeira Ve'ekonis Lo'oretz. Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no. Gzeirosi b'mekoymo oimedes. Also ich steht in Rashi. Gzeirosi b'mekoymo oimedes. Dover Ache kive shenichnas Moshe l'nachlos b'nei Gad b'nei Ruven somach Omar kidum shehutar li'aneder Moshe l'melech shegozar abnoi sheli yikones lepesach platin shelo nichnas l'shav v'u'achav l'chotzel v'u'achav l'trakel v'u'achav kive shebo li'ikones l'kiton Omar l'bni mikan v'elech ta'osu li'ikones. Let's stick to the first with Adam Moshel of Rashi. Moshe gets a tzivui to give the part of Eretz Yisrael to Bnei Tzlafchad, whatever the tzivui, whatever the psak was. Moshe says, what do you mean? Eretz Yisrael is being mischalek in Eretz Yisrael. So if he tells me nothing titet, I'm going to be the one who's going to bestow this property to Bnei Tzlafchad, apparently I'm going to go to Eretz Yisrael. Otherwise, what is done nothing titet? You should say, Bnei Tzlafchad doivus, when they get to Eretz Yisrael, Yeshua should give over. So Moshe made a mistake. Shema hutro agzeira. Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu gzeirasi b'mekoymo oimedes. So you know what? We bench today Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni. Beruach Yemei HaPurim. Next Shabbos, not the coming Shabbos, the Shabbos after, we're going to read the story of Shaul and Agog and Amalek. And in a nutshell, in a minute and a half, the story is Shmuel HaNovi is mitzave Shaul to eradicate, to kill away the Gans Amalek. Everything. Shaul goes, and he doesn't do the job adequately, properly. He leaves over Agag, the Melech, Agag, and the Tzoyin and the Boker. People are familiar more or less with the story. And he comes back, he says, Sisi, I did what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me. He says, Ma kol atzayin asher ani shemeya, why didn't you kill Agag? By the way, the ganze Purim, the ganze Adar Sheni, is from this procrastination of one night. Steht in Medrash, that be'oisa alaylo, he was in jail, the night of the Milchama, and he was bo'al ashifche, he was me'aber her, and in andere Midrashim, which has less Yodua state, as the baby that was born from that night was the one who killed Shaul al Gilboya. But it's a shiur b'fnei atzmo. We're not going to discuss it right now. We're going to say in Ashaheni after the Megillah. So, Shmuel is devastated. He says to him, you know what? You lost it. You're not a king anymore. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided the being that you were in Mekayim, the mitzvah b'chiras Amalek, as instructed by me, the Novi Dvar Hashem, you lost it. And who is taking over? Your son-in-law, David. David is becoming Melech Yisrael. So he goes over to him and he says, Chotosi ki ovarti pi Hashem ve'ez dvorecha ki yoresi esoam va'eshma b'koilom. You know, the people were nervous and they asked me, I really did. I have an excuse. Please excuse me. Ve'ato sona chatosi v'shuvimi v'shtachvu l'Hashem v'yomer Shmuel l'Shaul loy oshuvimoch ki mo'asto es dvar Hashem v'yimascho Hashem yois melech al Yisrael. You did not do what you were supposed to do. There is no tshuva. V'yomer of Shmuel kora Hashem es mamlochas Yisrael me'alecho unesono l'reyacho atoy v'imeko, which is David. Kadosh Baruch Hu ripped your melucha, gave it to David. V'gam netzach Yisrael lo yishaker v'lo yinochem ki lo yodamu lo yinochem. What's happening here? Zokt Reb Chaim Brisker, The Oilem says it over from Brisker Ober, it's a word from Reb Chaim. Brisker Ober is an application on top of it. Zocht Reb Chaim Brisker as follows. When the Rambam in Hilchos Yesod Torah makes a distinction between a Novi Emes and a Novi Sheker, the Rambam says, and I'll tell you a story, during the time of the Churban, Yirmiyahu Novi was going in Yerushalayim. There was a two, as we say by us in England, a dual carriageway. There was a two-lane highway. Some Medrash says there was a Shuka Eli and a Shuka Tachta, and some says it was side by side, but there were two shvokim. Yirmiyahu was going downstairs, says, Koyamar Hashem, it's going to be, and you're going to go, and you're going to go to Golus, and you're going to go to Golus Bovel, and Beis Hamikdash and Verim Chorev, and Alfni. At the very same time, there was a Novi Sheker called Hanania ben Azur. Hanania ben Azur is telling the Oilom, don't listen to him, he's a persona non grata, nishke normale, it's not a mess, it's going to be beautiful, don't listen to him. It's nishke ames the Novi. So and Yirmiyahu is going to the Shuka Tachton, and Hanania ben Azur is going to Shuka Elyon, and they're coming to the junction, stopping for a drink. And Yirmiyahu is telling him as follows. Listen to me. The halacha is, as nevuah l'ro, HaKadosh Baruch Hu could be chayzer. Nevuah l'toiv, HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot be chayzer. Nevuah l'toiv afilu al t'nai miskayemes. Which means, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, some good thing is going to happen to X, Y, Z, to this ummah, to this person, to this melech. It's unretrievable. It's irrevocable. Never. Nevuah l'ro, could be chayzer. Like Anshe Ninveh. They made a tiny Kadosh Baruch Hu said, I'm going to eradicate Ninveh, Gemach Tshuva, and they. Zog the Rambam as follows, I'm quoting a Rambam in Hilchos Yesod Torah. Divra Puranus Shanovi Oime Kegon Sheyoyma, Plein Yomus Oshona, Plein Srov, or Milchama V'Kayotze Bohem, Im Lo Yod Dvorov Im Hazak Choshel Nevuos Ve'eino Im Hina Diba V'Libo. If a Novi says Nevuah L'Ro, and it never happens, there's no raya is a Novi Sheker. Why? Shakadosh Baruch Chapayim v'Rav Chesed v'Nichem al Harov v'Efsha she'osu tshuva v'nimcha lehem ke'anshe Ninveh or she'tolo lehem ke'chizkiah aval im iftiach al toive ve'omar she'yeh kach v'kach v'leibo atoivo. There was maftiach something good beyodua shu novi sheker shekol dover toiv shegoy zara'el afilu atnai nechoize v'lo imotzine shechoze b'dvar toivo elo b'chu ben bishu shiftech l'tzadikim shelo yemu v'choze b'dvor. Then the Rambam clinches off and he says, Hu she'omar Yirmiyahu leChanania ben Azur. If my nevuah is not going to be, if the churban is not going to happen, there's no raya ben Novi Sheker. Because I'm saying a nevuah l'ro can't say, Tshuva Kadosh Baruch Hu mischapel l'ange Ninveh. But if your nevuah that's going to be a soiva, and mamesh nichayach, all the good advarim toivim, if your nevuah will not be miskayim, the oilem is going to know you're Novi Sheker. Zocht Reb Chaim, beautiful word. He says, Shmuel tells Shaul as follows. You know, tshuva helps. There is a moisa tzeda za postkestel, when we talk about uns, what says tshuva. There is an inyan of tshuva, and tshuva helps. And Shaul, which lo yichota miyomov, Shaul b'shtayim ve'olo lo yishtet nigmo yume. Shaul was a tzaddik. Don't look at Shaul, downgrade Shaul. Shaul's come and say, I made tshuva, he had an excuse. Zoktem, no. He says, you know what happened? The problem is that in the second, you weren't Mekayim, the Tzivui Hashem, for going to eradicate Hamolech, total eradication. HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised the nevuah to David. Kol Hashem es mamloches Yisrael ma'alechem u'neson al reach ha'tov yimeko v'gam netzach Yisrael leishak. If the nevuah would have been only nevuah l'rov against Shaul, so then, you know what? Chatos yavisa p'shaiti, nevuah l'rov could be chayzer with Shuv. But being that at the very same time HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you're going to lose it, and David is going to become the king instead of you. So right now, if you're retrieving it back, if it becomes a revocable nevuah, comes out, says, to Shaul, you took his tshuva. But at the very same time, you took David, who was promised to become a king, and he's becoming not a king. And that's a nevuah l'toiva. So nevuah l'toiva cannot be chazir. So the Chaim, beautiful. Since Nisan l'reach ha'tov yimeko in the nevuah l'ro, there was a linkage of nevuah l'toiva. Therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu is never going to retrieve it back. You know what? When the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that elder the maiden are coming to say in nevuah, what do they say? 5 words. Moshe Meis, Yeshua machnisam la'aretz. So there's the Gemara. I know how to read it right. Moshe based Yeshua machnisam la'aretz. So the Gemara, according to this man, that this was the nevuah. Why is Moshe zufrieden? So the Gemara lo simu kamei. You want to know something? I'll tell you a new pshat lo simu. Nish lo simu kamei. They never ever told Moshe that the nevuah is going to die. They say Moshe mes. Period. Lo simu. They never clinched it off. The last 3 words of the nevuah they didn't tell him. So it comes out as Moshe mes. It's a nevuah l'ro. But Yeshua machnisam la'aretz is nevuah l'toiva. But if the nevuah l'toiva is not said to Moshe, so Moshe means, you know what? But I could, perhaps this gzeira is retrievable. Therefore, Moshe says, Mi'iten kolam Hashem nevim. You want to know something? Moshe is not a chutzpinyak. Vayedaber Moshe l'Hashem lemor, says Rashi, Hashiveni dover. Ata memane parnes alem aloi. Zogt Rashi, why? Given Moshe, he said to him, Nosei titein, so Moshe had a fantasia. Moshe had this optical illusion that Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what? The gzeira is bottle. Why? Moshe had gezindigt. Moshe made a chet, but he could do tshuva. Kadosh Baruch Hu is chayzer. Oimali, ata memane parnes alem aloi. Are you giving it over or not? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu is memane parnes aleim, so comes out as in my nevuah l'ro, linked also a linkage, it's contingent upon, is subject to somebody else taking over from my rebist of it. So it's a nevuah l'toiva. So it's become a nevuah l'toiva klape Yehושע. I'm not able to retrieve it. So vaydaber Moshe l'Hashem lemor hashiveni dover ata memane parnes aleim. It's not just mischatzeif klape matris klape malom. He's not right now saying psavot. He's telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, tell me, if you're not memane parnas alem, so let's renegotiate. Let's do business again. I can do tshuva and I can come back. Being that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, Yeshua bin Nun is taking over. Being vayiyach harei Moshe vaydaber Hashem el Yeshua Moshe avdi meis ve'ato you taking over. So Yeshua is right now. He received the nevuah l'toiva. Moshe's gzeira l'ro is non-retrievable. Moshe dies, and Yeshua is machnisam la'aretz. But I would like to go weiter. We got to move ground. And there are 3 times in Perek Aleph that a double word is mentioned in. Please look. Let's go to Pasuk Hey Vav Zayin Ches. Lo yisyatzev ish lefanecha kol yemei chayecha kasher lo yisi Moshe yimoch lo erpecha velo yezveko. Chazak ve'ematz. Ki atotan chil leso'om hazeh so'oretz asher dibarti la'avoisom lo ses lo'em. Rak chazak ve'ematz me'oid lishmoy la'aso iskechol ha'toira asher tzivcha Moshe avdi lo yisosur al tosu mimenu yomin u'smoil leman taskil b'chol asher teilach. There is a double lashon Chazak ve'ematz. The first time in Pasuk Vav, Chazak ve'ematz atotan chil, and Pasuk Zayin, Rak Chazak ve'ematz me'oid. And if you think we're done, let's go to the last Psukim in the Perek. There, when we come in to the last Pasuk Yud Ches, the end of Perek, it's not there, so I'll read it. Pasuk Yud Ches. Tes also. Pasuk Yud Ches. Kol asher yamre espicha v'lo yishma es dvorecho l'chol asher tetzavenu yumas rak chazak ve'ematz. So there are 3 times. The second time is said over, and the second and third time is iber zov and the zelbe. That's why I did not mention it. It's one of them is about ancholas oretz. The second one is about shmiras hatayra. And the third one is beyachas to kol ish asher yamre espicho. The halacha is yumas rak chazak ve'ematz. Rashi learns chazak ve'ematz, the first one, b'derech eretz k'moy shema atotan. Haltzach stark. You know, you go to a guy, he's going to a war. He says, you know what? Keep strong. Keep up the good work. That's the first one. The Goyen, I don't know if you're having your... The Goyen says in the first in the first Chazak ve'ematz, says the Goyen, Chazak is a chayzik agufani. Okay? Ematz is ye'ametz es levovoi. Chazak is the physical strength, and ematz is the emotional strength. Okay? This is the first Goyen. Chazak beguf, if you look at the Goyen in Posuk Vov, ve'ematz belev. Ainu she'yametz es levovo shel yirach. That's the first Chazak ve'ematz. Rashi just says, Altzach stark. Rashi doesn't go to the distinction between Chazak and ematz. The Goyen makes a distinction. Chazak beguf, ematz belev. The next Chazak ve'ematz says the Goyen, Chazak beguf be'eseh, ve'ematz belev shu benefesh beloisase. Now is not Rashi learns the second Chazak ve'ematz goes on limud HaTorah. Says Rashi in Posuk Zayin, Rak Chazak ve'ematz me'od b'Torah. Halt sich stark in Torah, halt sich stark in der Ches with the Milchama, and halt sich stark in Torah. Hold yourself strong. Keep up the good work. Be strong. The Goyen, in the second Chazak ve'ematz, it says Chazak beguf be'eseh, ve'ematz belev benefesh beloisase. Lishmor uloisase. Lasois hu eseh. Yomin shaloi toisif al eseh. V'smoil shaloi tigra miloisase. The Goyen learns the second pasuk. The Goyen takes it, and he goes on Kiyum HaMitzvahs, not only on Limud HaTorah. In Kiyum HaMitzvahs, there is a difference between what a person needs in order to be Mekayim a Mitzvah Saseh, and between what a person needs in order to eliminate himself not to be over on the Leisas. The Goyen teaches us, and it's a going throughout Tanakh, it goes all the way through Mishle and Divrei Hayomim, that the Chelek, a person, in order to Mekayim Mitzvah Saseh, has to be strong, Chazak. So the Goyen, the Zelbe Chazak beguf. To be Mekayim Mitzvah Saseh, a person has to be Hautzach stark physically. In order not to be Mekayim Leisas, the Torah says Avera, 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 that already takes an emotional belief, Beloisase. And the Goyen says, Lishmor passes on the Leisase. Lasois is the Ese. Yamin is not to be Moisif on the Ese. It's very important, this Goyen, because in a couple months down the road, we're going to dissect this Goyen and say 2 shiurim about it. So I'm just putting it on a, first just lining it up. Smoil is Leitigra Mileisas. It's a steer to the Goyen in Aderes Eliyahu in Parshas Re'eh, that the Goyen says Leisasiv Leisigra goes only on Mitzvah Saseh, not on Mitzvah Leisaseh. But here the Goyen says, Leisasi Yomin is Smoil. Yomin is not to add on any Mitzvah Saseh, and Smoil is now to decrease in the Mitzvah of Leisaseh. There's a lav, don't make less laving, and Yomin, don't give them noch mitzvahs. Don't be over frum, don't give him more mitzvahs. What's the Chazak ve'ematz, the third one? It's talking about the Anhogas to Yeshua, to be manish, the people who are going to be moired in Yeshua, kol aisher yamre espicha yumas. And the Gemara comes along in Sanhedrin, the Gemara says, Yochol af b'divrei Torah. Could a melech say something against divrei Torah, and that should be the halacha also, that whoever is married not listening chayav misa? Talmud lo merak. Achin verakin is lemayet. Melech has a din. If somebody's married the malchus is chayav misa, but not if a melech decreases or tells you to be over either on bittul asay or on elois asay. So I'd like to focus today on another parsha in Torah, and maybe have a deeper understanding in the concept of Chazak ve'ematz. In the end of Moshe's life in Sefer Dvar, in Parshas Vayelech, I would like to read the psukim. Vayikra Moshe leYeshua vayomer elav le'eina kol Yisrael Chazak ve'ematz. Yeshua is not the one who invented, Kadosh Baruch Hu is not the one who invented the Chazak ve'ematz here in Sefer Yehoshua. Let's refer to the end of the life of Moshe when Yeshua takes over. Vayikra Moshe leYeshua vayomer elav le'eina Yisrael Chazak ve'ematz. Ki ato tovoi esom el oretz asher nishba laHashem la'avoisam lo seis lohem v'ato tanchilei sois. That's the first pasuk. 7 psukim later, Vayetzav Yeshua ben Nun vayomer Chazak ve'ematz כי אתו טובי es bnei Yisrael el ha'oretz asher nishbat Elohem, v'ani eimach. Pashtus, it's the same mashmos. But the first pasuk, Moshe is talking about, he's talking to him personally, so he tells him, Ato Tovi. Ato Tovi is you will come. Ato Tovi is you will bring. The first pasuk, Moshe tells him, Ato Tovi, you will come. He's talking to him personally. Then he's talking about Klal Yisrael. He says, you will lead the way of Klal Yisrael to come to Eretz Yisrael. Rashi says there is a very basic fundamental distinction between the first pasuk, Ato Tovoi, you shall come, Esoom, and the second pasuk, Ato Tovi Esoom. What is the difference between Tovoi and Tovi? Says Rashi. Ari at te'al im hamoadein. He brings the pasuk. You shall come with Moshe Omar Yeshua Zkenim Shebadoiri Yuimoch Akoy Lefi Daiton Ve'atzosa. Moshe tells him, listen, it's a new era. We need a larger parliament. You're going to take 70 Zkenim with you, and it's not a sole party that you dictate and run the show. Zkenim Shebadoiri Yuimoch Akoy Lefi Atzoson Ve'daiton. You need their eitzah and you need their das. And without their das and without their eitzah, you cannot be leading Klal Yisrael. Aval Kodesh Baruch Hu Omer Yeshua ki ata tovi es bnei Yisrael lo ha'oretz asher nishbati. Al kolchom hakol toilu becha. Toil makel v'hachal koidom. Dabor echad ladoy v'lo shnei daborim ladoy. Moshe tells him, listen, we need a joint venture with all the Shivim Zkenim. Kodesh Baruch Hu tells him, a few psukim later, ata tovi, not tovoi, you will come with. You'll be cuddled with the Zkenim, but Ato Tovi, you would lead. Tol Makel, Nemar Stecken, V'hachal Kot Koidom. Give us a clap over the cup. Give him a bang over the head. Dabor Echod Ladoy Ve'en Shnei Daborim Ladoy. Means you can't have two fiddles to run this symphony. Dabor Echod Ladoy Ve'en Shnei Daborim Ladoy. If you're going to have 70 days, we ain't getting anywhere. Because Baruch Hu tells him, you're going to be the leader. And if they're going to say anything that you're not so free with the dait of Vatzosim, which Moshe says a couple of psukim before, then Tol Makel v'Hachal Kotkoim. I mean, Moshe is not saying Egan Torah. Moshe is saying what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling him to say. So Moshe tells them, you're going to be one, and you need the support of the crowd, of the 70 Zkenim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes a few psukim later, no. Not only that, telling you, Tol Makel v'Hachal Kotkoim, Daborech Levesh Daborim Ladoy. Is Yeduim Divrei Abiskerov. It says as follows. Moshe Rabbeinu had two jobs. Job number one, he was a melech. Job number two, he was Rosh Hashanah. How do I know Moshe was a melech? That's the Gemara in Zvachim, Moshe was a melech. And it says that Moshe Rabbeinu came by the snake, Bikesh Moshe Melucha v'lenitna lo shenema, al tikra v'haloim v'an aloim el amalchus shenema v'yov ha'melech David v'yeshev lifnei Hashem v'yom b'mi ani u'ma beisi kiev yasani ad aloim. Moshe Rabbeinu asked for Melucha. There's a vor, they say over in Brisk, B'Shem Reb Shualem, why is Moshe asking for Melucha? Because the snare, the Kedushas HaZorah, and Moshe is 80 years old, and Yerushalmi says, how do you know a person is 80? Because he stands on ein fus, and he can't take off the shoe from the other foot. He's standing on one foot, he can't take off the shoe from the other foot, he's 80. And since the snare is the Kedushas HaZorah, and the halach is ein yeshiv b'Azorah l'malchus b'Zdovi bilvad, he's Bikesh Moshe Melucha, Moshe is asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's 80. Next pasuk says, Moshe Mishpoim Shona Boim of the Parah. He wants to become enough. But Moshe, for the Gemara Akasha, how could you say Lo Nitna Lo? Shtetach in the Braise, Sheva Smochos. They told Elisheva, Yevom HaMelech, your brother-in-law is a king, your husband is a Kohen Gadol, your son is a Meshuach Muhammad. Shteti was a Melech. So the Gemara level of Zara. Moshe was a Melech, but his Zara wasn't a Melech. But Moshe was a Melech. Vayi Bishur and Melech, Machlekes. In Midrashim, Ramban, Tug Yesoyas, if it goes on Kodesh Baruch Hu, it goes on Moshe. Moshe was a melech. The Rambam says as follows: You look at En Loisifin al Ha'ir al Azoras al Pi Melech al Pi Novi, uBeurim v'Tumim al Pi Sanedrin shel Zayin Aleph. uMoshe Kshenema kechol asher ani moire oischo v'chen ta'asu l'doiros uMoshe Rabbeinu melech hoyo. The Rambam says melech hoyo. So Moshe is a melech. Goes without saying. Moshe was also Rosh Hashanah. The Ram said, Hilchas Sanhedrin, ein koivim bitchilo. Right? You don't make a Beis Din Agodl, אלו במקדש, והוא הנקרא סנהדרין גדולה, ומיליון שבעים ואחד שלם 10 ל-70 זקנים מזקני ישראל, ומוישה על גביהם. שנאמר ויסייעצו הרי 71 is Moshe also Rosh Sanhedrin. The Rambam in Hilchos Melachim, when the Rambam brings down the din of Moed b'Malchus, the Rambam says, "Kol haMoed b'Melech Yisrael yesh laMelech Reshus laOrgoi." How do you know that the guy is Moed? Shene'emar kol ish asher yamre espicha. This pasuk kol ish asher yamre espicha is the punchline of Perek Aleph in Sefer Yehoshua. So the Rambam learns the din of Moed b'Malchus Chayev Mise from the Seist, as Yeshua was also a Melech. Yeshua was a Melech, and who made Yeshua into a Melech? Kodesh Baruch Hu. Zog the Goyen. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Kol ha'isha sheyamre espicha yumas. This was the minoi of Yeshua to become a Melech. So Yeshua is a Melech. And therefore, anybody who's married you is Chayev Misa. Yeshua was also Rosh HaSanhedrin. What is, says the Brisker of, what's the difference between Melech and Rosh HaSanhedrin? Melech, Rosh HaSanhedrin is only Rosh HaSanhedrin. How do you make a Rosh HaSanhedrin? By himself, he doesn't have any koyach to be done. The Sanhedrin is together, collective. The reason why it's called Rosh HaSanhedrin, by the way, Shteit in Rishonim, the Sanhedrin was sitting agulo. They were sitting in a chatzi eagle, and he used to sit in the middle, so he's the Rosh of the eagle. That's why it's called Rosh HaSanhedrin. So the Sanhedrin does not have his own power. He needs a collective consensus amongst all the goals. According to Rav, he's the Rosh, he's running it, and he's chosen by them. They say they take Echad, V'hu Anikra, says the Rambam, Rosh Yeshiva. Why is it called Rosh Yeshiva? Because he's a Yeshiva, and he's the Rosh, so he's called the Rosh Yeshiva. So the Rosh HaSanhedrin is called the Rosh Yeshiva, and he is the one who is Rosh HaSanhedrin. Melech, steht in Rambam, Udan v'roide ba'am, kasheri re'enoi v'zeu din ha'malchus. Melech is a dictator. Rosh HaSanhedrin is a democracy combined and comprised of 70 people, which goes according to majority, and he is the head. He is the head of Rosh HaSanhedrin. Minui Melech needs to be al pi novi. You cannot appoint a Melech only al pi novi. The Rambam says, "Ein ma'amidi Melech b'tchilo el al pi beis sheshiviskim al pi novi kem Yeshua shemino Moshe Rabbeinu beis dinah." The Rambam says, who appointed Yeshua? Not that the Goyen says that the appointment of Yeshua was by us in the parak that the Kodesh Baruch Hu made into Melech, but Yeshua shemino Moshe Rabbeinu beis dinah ukishol v'David sheminom Shmuel haramosa beis dinah. Meaning Rosh HaSanhedrin, you don't need anybody. The Rambam just says they take the Choshev Stegai, they sit together, decide the Choshev Stegai. Ato Tovoi and Ato Tovi, there are two sides of the same coin. Being that Yeshua got two appointments, an appointment of Rosh HaSanhedrin and an appointment of Melech, the first pasuk says Ato Tova im kulam kadol, but a 70 skating is because Yeshua is going to become the Rosh HaSanhedrin. And as Rosh HaSanhedrin, he needs the support of everyone. I'll call out Piatzos and Vedaita, because you can't have a Sanhedrin without a consensus and an agreement amongst all the 70 members of the Sanhedrin. Kodesh Baruch Hu told him, Toil Makel v'Hachal Kodkoidom. Kodesh Baruch Hu, according to the Goyen, he was Memani Yeshua for a Melech, or either Moshe was Memani for a Melech. It doesn't make a difference. You need a Nevuah. Shaili is, Kodesh Baruch Hu is a Novi. Everybody tumbles. This guy in State Kodesh Baruch Hu was a Kohen Gadol. The Gemara says he was Masger Miriam. Kodesh Baruch Hu is a Novi. It's not tumble. The guy says he was a Novi. The Ram says the Novi was Moshe. But the Yachas to Yeshua becoming her, Yachas Yeshua becoming a Melech, Toil Makel v'Hachal Kod Koidom. Melech is a one-man show. Dabar Echad L'Dor v'Ein Shnei Dabarim L'Dor. So there are two appointments for two different jobs. One of them is a Rosh HaSanhedrin, which needs a collective consensus statement amongst all the 70 members, and that's Tovoi, together with them. And Tovi, you run the show, you're the Melech, you're the Roide, you're the Dan, and the halacha is, if somebody's Moed the Malchus, is Chayev Misa. If that's the case, maybe we could say Chazak ve'ematz. There is a Chazak ve'ematz as a Melech, and if there's a Chazak ve'ematz, in the first two things, Rashi says you need a chazak b'yachas to kibush ha'oretz, and the second one is you need a chizuk b'yachas to Torah. Rosh HaSanhedrin, state in Rambam, you need in order to be Rosh Hashanah, the Rambam says he has to be Muchter and be somebody who is Rosh. He has to be a Geisa Talmid Chacham. They take the biggest Talmid Chacham.